Well, I'm going to call this meeting to order because we've got critical mass, although I suspect that we will still have a few members trickling in here. Let me welcome all of you to the National Heritage Area Management Plan Advisory Committee. My name is Eric Vink. I head up the staff at the Delta Protection Commission. And rather than asking for people to weigh in individually, let me just read off the members of the committee who are present. I'll also indicate both commission and consultants that are present as well on my screen. So our Vice Chair, Elizabeth Patterson from Benicia is here. Member Lenora Clark from Discovery Bay. Member Douglas Shaw from Locke.
Present. Member
Carol Jensen from Brentwood. Member Janet Lake from
Freeport.
Freeport, thank you. Okay, it's going to be one of those days. Member James Motlow from Locke. Member David Stewart from Sacramento. Member Jan Vick from Rio Vista. Member Jean Yokotobe from Ileton. Member Matt Holmes from Stockton. And in addition, ex officio members Jeff Henderson, representing Delta Stewardship Council, John Takakawa, representing Sassoon Marsh RCD, and Trevor Rice, representing National Park Service. Before I introduce the staff present, are there any members that I missed or that joined? There's Morris Lum. Welcome, Morris. We will put you down as present at roll call. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Morris is not a member of the committee. He's a guest here. He's on the other committee I work with a lot, so sorry about that. In addition, both commission staff, Blake Roberts, and I see Virginia Gardner's joined, and also state consultants, including the Point Heritage Development Team of Augie Carlino, Nancy Morgan, and Carolyn Brackett are here, and the State Parks consultant team, including Katie Metro and Heather Holm. Have I missed anyone on the consultant or staff team? And then we also have some members of the public joining, including Trish Kelly from Valley Vision. Welcome, Trish, and Michael McCarran. Welcome to you. And with that, I think we are prepared to start the meeting. We have a quorum of members present. And we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is public comment, an opportunity for members of the public to address the committee on items not on the agenda. Are there any public comments from members of the public? Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 3, which is our first business item, advisory committee member updates. This is where it opens up to advisory committee members. If you just want to jump in, if there's something you would like to update the group on. Go ahead, Lenora. Yes.
I think most of the committee members are aware that I joined the committee as a representative of Recreational Boaters of California. And just a little background on Recreational Boaters of California. We advocate with both the legislators and various state and regulatory bodies on boating, the waterways, and anything having to do with recreation and the waterways. And it's timely for me to advise this committee that Recreational Boaters has an annual legislative day where we normally meet a one-on-one with our legislators and go over various pieces of proposed legislation. And this year, I will be meeting with some of them on SB 1218, which happens to be a bill that requires the Delta Stewardship Council to provide an annual report on water supply reliability in the Delta and with the San Joaquin River and the Sacramento River. So that's going to be on the 14th and 15th of March. And I hope to report back that we had some fruitful meetings on other pieces of legislation also. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lenora. Let's go to Trevor Rice and then Douglas Shaw.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a quick update. Blake contacted me and helpfully reminded me that we've had some recent leadership changes, both locally at the park, in the region, and then for a little while now at the department and bureau level here. So I just wanted to give a brief update for folks. I know for some folks, they may have been following along on all of this already, and others it may be news, but I'll start maybe from the bottom and work my way up. We just recently had an update for the 4 national park sites in Contra Costa County that a new permanent superintendent has been announced. So can someone potentially allow me to share some links in the chat beyond just the host and co-host?
Yeah, of course. I'm not sure why that's not enabled. I don't know who is host of this meeting, but whoever is, if you could enable.
Perfect. It looks like I got that update now. Thank you. So I'm just going to share a couple of links out. Some are press releases, just with some more information as I go through this sort of new cadre of leadership. So Kaylin Berry is coming to us from one of the parks, Congaree, back east, and so we're lucky to have her joining us here in the Bay Area. Again, she'll be overseeing the 4 national park sites in Contra Costa County, including John Muir National Historic Site and Port Chicago Naval Magazine National Memorial, which are both within the Delta NHA boundaries. And so some of you may have known Tom Leatherman, a longtime superintendent of these 4 sites. He has since moved on. So this is just a quick introduction to Kaylin. None of us at the park have met her yet. She is coming and should be starting in early April, I believe. So that's great for us to have that announcement. We've been working under an acting leader for the past few months. So we also have a change in leadership, a permanent selection of a new regional director at what used to be known as the Pacific West region for the national parks.
The Delta Center.
What's that? Oh,
yeah, go ahead. Someone's not muted, but thank you.
Oh, okay. So this is Frank Lands. He comes to us from the Army. He worked in Army installations, both stateside and abroad for the past few years, and also has a background in environmental planning. So we were lucky enough actually to get the second visit that new regional director Frank Lands performed to a national park site. He came over and visited us both at John Muir and at Port Chicago. We were also lucky enough to partner with our colleagues at East Bay Regional Park District and get Frank out to the new Thurgood Marshall Regional Park, home of the Port Chicago 50. And so while that new regional park site is not technically within the boundaries of the Delta NHA, it will likely have a big role in helping us tell the Port Chicago story, which is within the boundaries of the NHA. So anyway, that's new for Frank Lands. Again, a great permanent selection for us. And then for folks, again, who may not have been following along as closely, we already have a new permanent director finally of the National Park Service. So that's Chuck Sams. And he's made a big difference for us internally. And then that was following the appointment of Secretary Deb Haaland, which is the leader of the Department of Interior. So those are some links in the chat. And really the big thing for us that I wanted to mention is that this is really the first time since the John Jarvis era, so many years now, that the National Park Service has had a whole line of permanent installed leaders who have articulated priorities to staff and have really given us a refreshed strategic direction. So this is kind of refreshing for those of us on the front lines who for quite some time now have sort of been acting under acting leadership. And so it's nice for us to see that, and that there's been some recognition that that there are new strategies out there and priorities set along the way, and that although those priorities don't necessarily come with increased funding or increased capacity, we're at least clear on where those priorities are. So
yeah,
thank you.
Great. Thank you, Trevor. Appreciate that. Let's move on to Douglas Shaw. Douglas.
Yes, yeah, I'd like to share with everybody that Law Foundation banded together with two Chinese organizations in the area. We petitioned to name a trail built between Lotus and Coloma, the Marshall Gold Discovery. So we managed to name it the Chinese name, Gamsan Trail, meaning Gold Mountain Trail. So this is the first Chinese name under the jurisdiction of the California State Park, and we are proud of it. And yeah, but I know that the national park already has the first Chinese name, which is the Sing Peak. So thank you, National Park, and that's all.
Great. Thank you, Douglas. Appreciate that update. Matt Holmes.
That's great, Doug. I didn't know about that. I just wanted to share with folks that my organization, Little Manila Rising, was awarded a Cal EPA Environmental Justice Small Grant. And so we'll be launching a citizen science harmful algal blooms monitoring partnership with the State Water Resource Control Board and Restore the Delta as part of a broader environmental monitoring strategy for our region. So we also received a CARB grant and a DOJ grant for air monitoring for pollution, particularly looking at ocean going vessels. And so we'll be modeling vessel traffic in the Delta, and then also collecting data on water temperature and HABs proliferation so that we can safely enjoy the waters of the Delta.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Congratulations on that. Are there any other member updates? Events you'd like to know the groups, everyone present to know about? We got a couple more minutes before we should jump into the meat of the agenda. Okay, well, feel free to put things in the chat, or we'll see if we can come back around at the end of the meeting and have a chance to capture any comments that or announcements that might have occurred during the course of the meeting.
Eric, I'll share one more, which is that the CARB 2022 scoping plan, this is the economy-wide scoping plan that decides how California spends its greenhouse gas reduction fund dollars to bring the state into what's called net neutrality or net zero GHG. It's a giant pile of money. We spend it on all sorts of adorable things. But we've managed to create a scenario around natural and working lands. You know, so things like cattle ranchers should only have so many ranchers per square foot type thing. But there's a new emphasis and a new appreciation for the greenhouse gas sequestration capacity of the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, and that the structure behind me is the most efficient, natural, and free instrument we have to sequester carbon from the atmosphere. And there is a group of us advocating vociferously for full investment in the region, both for sea level rise resilience and carbon sequestration. And we finally got them to agree to pay for community engagement, because they basically just engage with impacted industries. So there will be a series of public workshops where people can be involved in hearing what the scoping plan means, and then providing your feedback on the direction you think you should go. And one of the big fights is they want to invest in industry stashing carbon underneath the delta instead of investing in ecological services and nature-based restoration strategies. So we're trying to take care of all the little live things first before we develop a moonshot that hides carbon under the delta and potentially acidifies the entire waterway. So if anybody's interested in that, happy to connect you to the process.
Okay, great. Thank you, Matt. All right, well, we'll come back around later for additional member announcements, especially those focused on NHA related items. Let's move on to agenda item 4, which is the NHA mission and vision statements. And turning it over now to Augie Carlino from Point Heritage Development. Go ahead, Augie.
Thank you, Eric. Tonight, we want to present to you the recommended mission and vision statements that have been in development with the organization task group since back January when we first started to discuss this part of the work for the management plan. That committee, by the way, and forgive me if I miss anyone, but Mike Moran is the chair, Elizabeth Patterson is on it, Matt Holmes, Mike McCarran, Mark Pruner, and Paulette Henman and Trish Kelly. And they've all been working hard with us, brainstorming ideas. Like all of this, mission and vision can get quite emotional and quite exciting. And I think we've got some good presentation recommendations to make to you tonight. I am going to share the screen, if I may, and hopefully you will be able to see it. We've got a little PowerPoint presentation. Everyone can see that, I trust, right? Please tell me you can, or okay, yes, good. Thank you. So as I said, this committee has met a couple times, and then since February 26, we've been meeting offline through edits. But January 11th, what we did was we reviewed mission statement and then brainstormed some key phrases for a vision. We also then met and we were given a homework assignment, by the way, at that, we, the staff and the consultant team. And that was basically the mission statement that we're going to show you. By the way, the mission statement that's on the paperwork that was sent out, that was an error. That's the old mission statement. The new mission statement we'll be bringing up on the next slide. But that new mission statement is one that still exists. It's one that's part of what the heritage area is and says. So what we did was we come out of that meeting with some ideas of different words that could build toward a vision statement, and then went to work on developing a vision statement from those discussions. So on January 11th, the task group began to work with these types of phrases that they were discussing. And up here, if you can see my cursor moving in the upper right corner, that was basically the old statement. And what mostly everybody felt, including the staff of DPC, was this phrase, Delta as a place, was a little confusing, maybe misunderstood or not understood at all. And so they wanted to get away from it. So this mission statement here, which exists from the feasibility study, is the one that we began to go with. And really, it didn't change much, but it led to a discussion of several of these high-level topic issues that you can see with those Post-its that are put on there. And we did this by a Jamboard presentation, just like as we worked with.
Can you make that full screen? It's hard to read that. It's so small. Can you make that full screen?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Yes, I can. Not a problem. How is that?
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. I apologize for that. So we began to work on these key statements, these 7 key statements, to move toward those phrases, those words that evoke excitement, energy, enthusiasm of what the Delta is and what you all are working toward. Now, back up one step, because this is important, and I apologize for the fundamental explanation of it, but we all seem to get confused with this sometimes. Mission statements are the statement of the organization and what it's intending to do. It's the statement that guides the organization, right? This is part of your filings with the state, with the IRS. It's what you are grounded in as an organization, and basically provides part of your fundamental values as an organization. The difference between the mission of what you want to do and the vision of what you want to be is, in a vision statement, we've got to describe your work at a point in time in the future. And that sometimes can be the most difficult thing, because not only is it the issue with verbs, right? As we're describing a place 10 years from now or 20 years from now, but we sometimes get confused and fall back to mission. But this group was spot on in all the work that they did. And we had a lot of, as I said, very vibrant discussions. You can see some of the key phrases there that we began to group. And that was what the point of this colorization of those tabs are. The Delta's unique resources and history and experiences. And I'm not going to read all of these. I'm going to pick out certain key ones. We talked about diversity of culture and diverse landscape. That was so critical. A place of history, people, places, and endless possibilities. You talked about the region being a thriving place. It's an important place that needs to be recognized, because as many of the people on that task group felt, it's sort of underappreciated and unknown. I've heard that a lot over the course of those meetings, that it's not known. And it's for Californians actually to care about. We talked about the importance of the estuary and its entire watershed, and not only how critical it is to your part of California, but the state as a whole, to the Western seaboard, and to globally the Pacific Ocean, what it means in that standpoint from an environmental, ecological watershed. You also wanted to make sure people knew you were there in a sense of visitation, not just Californians, but people that you want to be able to attract there. That the Delta is magical, it's a place for everybody. And it's an experience that has rich culture, rich meaning, a lot of things to do. And it's a place you all want to protect in some way. You want to make sure that life that you cherish so much is conserved, that you appreciate the work in the region and what is going on. So with that, we set out to develop a couple of vision statements that we believed might have actually summed up what the feelings of the committee was. Not to my surprise, when we got into the committee and we presented these two vision statements, Vision Statement 1 and Vision Statement 2, the committee had reaction to it, and they felt that it wasn't, neither one of those were as exciting, as vibrant, as forward thinking, as forward of an action that you all wanted to have. And we talked about things in that next meeting on February 25th that you wanted to make a promise. We kept hearing that over. There was a commitment and a promise to deliver on your work as a part of not only what is in the management plan, but your work as an organization, delivering on a promise to the residents, to visitors, and to the communities of your region. You wanted to share this rich experience. You wanted to share it with not only other folks from your region, your residents, but visitors to the region, and basically people around the world. partnership was key. And you wanted to express that because, as we all know, partners are critical to every heritage area and what they do and how they work. And you didn't want to forget, this committee said, that it isn't just for visitation, but this is a place where people live and work. And they also recreate in that region, and you want to share those values with everybody. And last but not least, we discussed the dynamism of the water. Matt, I think you were the one that came up with that phrase, which was very evocative and powerful. And so we were sent back to develop a vision statement. And this vision statement was crafted. It was sent out to every member of the task group, and then it was emailed, discussed between us over the last week. And we present this to you tonight. And bear with me, I'm going to read this to you. The Sacramento San Joaquin Delta National Heritage Area promises to support the living links between the past, present, and future, and the farmed, developed, and wild lands in the Delta, Sassoon Marsh, and Carquinez Strait. This globally significant estuary is a showcase for and sustains a remarkable and diverse blend of natural and human communities over millennia. Through our partnerships, we affirm and protect our values as a living landscape, the appreciation of our cultures, our relationship with water, the rewards of our labor and commerce, and the revitalizing benefits of recreation, sharing this rich lived experience with Californians and visitors from around the world. So that's our presentation of not just the mission statement, like I said, which was pretty much set as we went into this, but this proposal of a vision statement that will help set the target for what you all want to be as you complete all the work as a part of that management plan. And at that point, Blake, I'll turn it to you if you want to lead the discussion for any questions, and I'll be here with you, but I'll let you jump in if you have anything to say.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and guide that, Augie, but a clarifying question first. Is there a similar slide for the mission statement?
There is one further back, yes, right there. That is the mission statement that we set out. Oops, sorry. So I did this on the last meeting and it erased everything, and I'm going to keep my fingers away from any part of the keyboard. And so that's the mission statement, Eric, in the body in the middle of that slide.
Okay, so just to be clear, the document that Blake sent out has an incorrect mission statement. Does everyone understand that?
Yeah, that is the one up top here. That was the one that we were told you didn't want to have anymore. So we worked to develop this one, which appears this didn't change much except for taking Delta as a place out. I think this is a part of what your feasibility study says your mission is, and so we've kept that.
Okay, yeah, I just want all the members of the committee to be clear that you know, don't work off of the printed page, work off of what is showing here.
Right.
Yeah, sorry for that mix up, Eric. What I can do is I can send out, if you'd like, I can send that out to the group as well, the revised mission statement.
Yeah, well, why don't we just leave it on the screen here? Are there any, if anyone would like to ask questions or have comments, if you could raise your Zoom hand, that would be great. But otherwise, just you could also jump in. We don't have that many people that we can handle it that way. I don't see any hands. Are there any comments on either of these two? And Augie, forgive me, I might have been not paying sufficient attention. Did you describe the significance and how a mission statement is used, how a vision statement is used?
I did, yes, at the beginning. Yeah, mission sets the foundation for your organization and what you want to work toward. Vision is the target and describing what you are at the end of all that work.
Right, but in terms of how they're used, I know for me, I'm the kind of person that likes to use the mission statement to describe the whole effort. And so I like a mission statement that can perform that function.
Yeah.
I've got my thoughts about this one. I can't say I'm 100% on that, but it's pretty darn close. It just feels like it's a little fleshy. So
yeah. Your mission statement will oftentimes be asked of you by foundations or other grant-making organizations.
Right.
You know, you'll have to file that with certain governmental bodies. The vision, not to diminish its importance, because it's just as important. The vision tends to be more of an advertisement for the region and what you are at the point in time when you're concluded with this part of the work. So it's more of a PR statement than it is something that's guiding the organization entirely.
Well, my question on the working vision statement that we received is, I'd like to get a clear picture of what your thought processes when you interjected this globally significant estuary.
That was
me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, just that part of elevating the Delta as a region within Californians' mind, we were trying to get people to stop throwing their stuff away here and draining it. And absolutely, the Sacramento San Joaquin estuary impacts the Pacific Ocean life. It's the largest estuary on the west coast of both North and South America. So it is a globally significant river structure. Does that help, Lenora? Marine mammal life from Puget Sound to Mexico depends on this river. And I'm happy to have it removed.
No, I just, globally was a real big thing that jumped out to me. And I just wanted to understand why we use that terminology in reference to the Delta.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it kind of snowballed.
I don't think it's hyperbole. I think Matt put his finger on it, and I do think it is regarded as incredibly significant. You know, you could quibble over whether globally is going a little too far, but it's not going very too far if it is at all. So,
well, and I'll just tell you, since you asked about the thought process, I was trying to talk about how this matters to everyone in California, this Delta.
Okay.
And I couldn't stop there because it really does matter even beyond California. So the sports fishermen from up and down the coast depend on this river feeding that ocean. So, and the water advocates always say that when they talk to me about the estuary. And in fact, people from Washington, D.C. are traveling out here to elevate the significance of the Delta to the entire country's greenhouse gas budget. So a lot of people appreciate it at that scale.
okay. Is that cover it for you, Lenora?
Yeah, that answers my question. I still kind of feel like globally is a stretch. Nationally is what I had in mind, but that's, you know, just quibbling on the semantics. I can handle globally.
So this is Elizabeth, totally in support of what Matt has articulated, and this has been stated in other places. Venice is globally significant. And so the California Delta is globally significant. People go to Venice because it's unique and the estuary is unique. It's the only inverse estuary with a geologic strait in the Western Hemisphere, and it's the largest and most altered. It is globally significant estuary. And then the things that Matt's talking about in terms of water and the fact that we have fish species that depend on that interaction, and those fish species go up and down the the coast of both North and South America. So it is globally significant. And you might even want to underline it. I feel pretty strongly about that. Or
Okay.
strong about it.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Did you have other comments, or can I go to Carol and then David?
I'm
Okay,
good.
go ahead, Carol.
Thank you. I concur on the global aspect of it. We can expand that to remind people that the Amazon, of course, the globe's lungs for handling carbon, maybe second only to the Amazon and maybe soon to exceed it, will be peat lands. In the peat lands, such as we have in the Delta, are great tools for handling carbon in the atmosphere. And so the global significance is not just the water, it's the fact that we have peat lands. Scotland has peat, we have peat, Europe has peat, but our Delta is really helping with climate change just for being peat. But I had a question with regard to the mission statement, if I may, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
In it, you use the word partnership. I can see nonprofits or people reading that, and the question will be begged is partnership, okay, who are you in partnership with? We can say we are a partnership, but people are going to ask. Partners assume more than one. So I think we need to, I don't want to wordsmith here, but are we a partnership? I thought we were a national historic or national heritage area, and now I see we're also a partnership too. Okay, but we've got to be prepared to say partnering with what or with whom?
Well, Carol, every national heritage area exists the way you all do, with all these folks whose little squares you see represented here, each of you representing an organization. And you all make up that partnership that is the national heritage area, the organization of the heritage area. My heritage area exists as an organization, but we are a partnership of probably, if I had to put a number on it, maybe 100 or more different organizations, businesses, local, state, county governments, other nonprofits, educational organizations, all the way up to colleges and universities. That's the way heritage areas work. That's how they function. That's how they get everything done, because it can't be done just by Blake and Eric and the Delta Protection Commission. This partnership all has to work together.
I agree. I understand that. I'm just anticipating those that are not as familiar with all this as we are reading this mission statement. Maybe if we put in the word, it's a partnership organization.
You could say
maybe that clarifies it a little better, because when I see partnership, I go, okay, I give up. Who are you partnering with? And in this case, we want to say that we are an organization comprised of partners. Hence, adding in that word might help in clarification. That's all.
Good point. I'll add to this, and it's something for you all to consider. Many times a mission statement, in its attempt to be brief and succinct, the organizations, whether it's a heritage area or other, need to define it a little more. So when they've put out a mission statement, it's been 1 or 2 sentences like you may see here. But then there could be some further explanation that follows that isn't necessarily your mission statement, but it's backup information that elaborates more on what your mission is. And that helps, I think, maybe too, Carol. What you're getting at is this further explanation, so that it isn't just the staff that can explain it, but all the partners working together that can explain what they are doing collectively.
No, I get it, but my experience is people don't read beyond 2 sentences and they never read the backup information. They read the executive summary, 2
Yeah.
sentences, that's it, move on.
That's right.
So it's
That's
just,
right.
just a, maybe helpful, maybe not a helpful point of clarification.
Great. Thank you, Carol. Let's move on to David and then to Trish.
Yeah, I agree. And Augie, at the last museum where I was a director, we did a mission statement, and then we struggled because we wanted to put the programs, all the programming that accomplished the mission into there. And we finally broke it into 2. We had a mission statement, and right below it was a program statement briefly listing what the museum did. And we could use both or separate them. And so, yeah, there's ways to help. On this one, I would just, Eric talked about cutting it down some. I think we could just do some editing on it and like just say I like Carol's idea to say it's a partnership organization that works to, you don't need to say together then. And so I think it could be tightened a little bit, but I don't think you want to lose content in the effort to make it shorter. So that was my comment.
No, I think that was well stated, David, and I would attach my comment to yours. Thank you. Trish, and apologies to Trish and to Michael McCarran. I did not realize both of you were task group members, so I was a little in error in introducing you as members of the public. You're fully integrated into our effort, and I'm really glad you are. Go ahead, Trish.
Thank you so much, Eric. No, glad to be here. And I just wanted to comment on the global significance. I too affirm that's really important for an external messaging as well as the reality. But you know, in the work that we do around the agricultural economy, in addition to the significance ecologically and environmentally, is the impact of the products that come out of the Delta do go globally as well. And there's a branding and recognition around that I think is increasing. So to me, it just emphasizes the importance of saying that the connections externally go out globally as well. Thanks.
Trish, there was a lot of discussion about that, and this phrase, the third line from the end, the rewards of our labor and commerce. You know, we began to list out those things and realized that we could be listing forever, and so we just came up with a very general word in commerce there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, I think that there is a particular branding around some of those agricultural products. And so in the work that we see in the region around the food and ag economy and the importance of the Delta to our regional economy, that it is a global economy as well. Thank you, Augie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, these are all great comments. Are there any other comments from committee members? Any comments from those members of the public joining us? I had one comment. It's just a very minor quibble, but I don't know that there's any wild land left in the Delta. We certainly have natural lands, but I think wild land is a bit of a misnomer. So, because everything has been transformed. I could be wrong. There could be corners of the Delta that are still, you know, look as they did in the pre-contact era, but I think reclamation really
Eric,
did.
last summer we had a bear that ended up in our waters here in Discovery Bay.
Yeah, well,
we were trying to figure out where he was coming from.
That sounds pretty wild, but I certainly don't think of Discovery Bay as wildlands, but maybe I should revise my opinion there.
Yeah, he was under our dock.
Was it a grizzly bear? That would have made it perfect.
I think he was a brown bear.
I think so too. Okay. Matt has his hand raised, and then Trish, back to you unless that's best to go.
Oh, no, I have to take that down.
No problem.
Oh yeah, I was
Yeah.
just gonna add quickly. I'm pretty sure I used to hang out with grass ecologists when I worked over at Trevor's operation, and there are some patches of never impaired table grasses that could meet the definition of wildland. It's almost such a small chunk of land that to like die on that hill might look silly, but there are semi-wild lands, and then obviously the only way to save this place is to rewild some of it, and so what that looks like, who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I think you raise a good point, because it is a definition that that's a stretch.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
So
James,
Eric?
and then Trevor.
Oh, sorry.
Please go ahead, James.
Well, thank you, Eric. Yeah, the area that I know directly behind Lock, which is how I describe it to people who visit it, is literally like a postage stamp. It's where the Delta Meadows State Park is. That area pretty much is unchanged since the origins of the Delta itself, because it's never really been farmed. There are levees on the extreme edges of it, but in the interior of that area, particularly if you take a walk behind Lock in that area, you look out and you see seemingly endless swampland, essentially. It's quite beautiful. So that's of my experience with the Delta, that is the single area that most holds itself to what it was originally like.
Thank you. Yeah, James, thank you. I actually walked that trail for the first time about 3 weeks ago, and I agree with your assessment there. Trevor, and then Blake, and then Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm glad you drilled down into that wildlands piece. It helped me remember a comment when I saw this, is that I think maybe this is intuitive, but it doesn't seem to be spelled out here, that I think just as important as supporting the living links of the lands is the living links of the waters of the Delta, Sassoon Marsh, and Carquinez Strait as well. And so I don't know that again, I know the next sentence there immediately goes into talking about the estuary, but it seems to me that we may want to specifically state there that the past, present, and future, and the links between them of not just the lands but the waters of the Delta is critically important.
Great, thanks,
I
Trevor.
have that noted. Thank you, Trevor.
Blake, and then Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention really quickly that I think we earlier, there's an earlier version of this that said wild and managed. But yeah, the struggle I had with that is that anything that's even wild is managed to some extent. So, I mean, wildish would probably not be a very inspiring word. But I think that perhaps we could be a little bit more explicit about the types of lands that tend to be more on the wild aspect in terms of, I mean, because I think we wanted to differentiate between something that was, farmland, between, more urban land, and then there's sort of that third portion that really is, I hate to say nature, but that's kind of, a little bit more wild than other parts of the area.
It's a great word. It can mean whatever we want it to.
Yeah. Yeah, we might be hair splitting here too to go into much greater detail, but go ahead, Elizabeth. Either continue splitting the hair or find a new one.
Yeah, I like wildish. I'm not sure we could do that. I just want to point out that the Sassoon area is pretty wild. The Grizzly Island, it's managed, granted it is managed wild lands, which is what Blake is talking about. I like the idea of putting water, and I was thinking, and free flowing water and wildlands. You might want to think about that. I was kind of thinking of Justinian and the origin of the public trust and free flowing waters. So, but I really, really like the wildish I'm not suggesting you use it. I just think it's a great term. Could be a new goal in my life.
Good point. Thank you, Elizabeth. Any other comments on these two statements?
We might have an opportunity to insert waterways into.
Where would you want, is that in place of the water in the Delta, Sassoon Marsh and Carquinez Strait? Do you want to say the waterways?
The waterways of. And maybe somebody suggested natural instead of wild. But again, we're wordsmithing here, and you guys have a really good product.
Yeah, thank you, Lenora. Okay, any other comments, including from any public comments? And yeah, Elizabeth Patterson wants to compliment Augie for a great job of summarizing, and I concur with that.
Well,
okay, I don't hear any other comments, Augie, so it's back to you.
Well, I will ask Eric formally, what does this advisory committee need to do given these changes in mission? We're going to say a partnership organization that works to recognize, right? And in this vision, hearing the committee, we're going to add and the water or waterways of the Delta, Sassoon Marsh, et cetera. With those, if those are the changes and those are incredibly easy to do, does I'm asking a procedural question of you. Does this committee vote on it so that we can advance it and move on with these as part of the management plan?
Yeah, what's the, you know, we can either, we don't have to do things formally with this committee. We certainly can if there's a desire or if there's a, you know, a disagreement and we need to capture an actual vote. But, and I want to reaffirm David Stewart's comment earlier about the opportunity to just tighten this a little bit, and particularly the mission statement. I think if there's ways to make it a little punchier would be a good thing. But aside from those, you know, minor tightening changes, is there general consensus here that we have a couple of good products? This will be the first time we've said, yes, we recommend these. And there certainly can be a vote on that if there's a desire for that, if there's general consensus that these are good in their form, then we can just call it a consensus agreement. Carol, and then Matt.
Yeah, I like it. I like the little wordsmithing we did, yes. I don't think we should call for a vote at this meeting in concurrence. I think perhaps we should ask staff to tighten it up, make the final version, email it to all of us, and we socialize it amongst our various constituencies to the tune of, you know, how does this look, guys? Such that we can come together at our next meeting and affirm that, yep, this is it. But I think to say slam dunk today without socializing it amongst our constituencies, I don't see the need to have it done today.
Thank you, Carol. Matt?
Yeah, and I was just going to add a little kernel of wisdom that Augie shared when we met about this the other day, because I wanted to get it perfect. This we'll be able to interrogate these statements better once we've gone through the full planning process, right? Like when we're finishing the document, we'll get into the meat of something, and then we'll be able to come back and make sure that the vision and the mission reflect the issues that we vet and evaluate once we have a final plan in hand. Giving up on getting this perfect right now, I do think it's useful to have it as an anchor for our conversations, just fully expecting this to be, we don't need an act of Congress on this, right? Nobody needs to vote on this.
That's right.
Okay, great. So I'm happy to move forward with this, expecting that some modifications live for us in the future.
Wonderful. So again, I'll ask, is there a general consensus that this is in good shape? I see heads nodding. I'm scrolling through the screens. Keep nodding those heads. That's great. Thumbs up, even better. Thank you, Janet. Okay, well, and I don't hear any objection to that. So let's consider this to be, aside from some, modest editing to tighten and clarify, or just to tighten, I guess, we'll consider that to be something the group supports.
Great, thank you. My compliments to the task group. They were great to work with on this.
Yes, thank you, task group members who are present here today. Augie, is there more on that agenda item that you would like to
No,
cover?
sir.
Does
No,
that
sir.
move us-
That's my report, Eric.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So let's move on to agenda item 5, which is the NHA interpretive themes. And I think this goes to Katie. Yeah, Katie Metro, California State Parks.
Hi, Blake, I don't know if you have the PowerPoint. You want to start that?
I do not have it readily available.
Okay.
Let me.
Okay. I can use the. I know that you said you had made changes, so I wasn't sure. I didn't have the most recent one.
Are pretty small, so don't worry about it.
Okay. Should I go ahead and share mine then?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. If you guys could give me a second, I need to actually get it since I wasn't prepared.
And then Katie, if you want to introduce it, Blake can pull it up if you have some introductory words that kind of lead into what you want to pull onto the screen. Or if you want to find it right now, that's either way.
Okay. Yeah, Blake, if you could find it, it's probably just in the email and pull it up. So yes, I just wanted to do just sort of a where we've been and where we're at and where we're going with this interpretive plan. So when we get that PowerPoint up, it'll just essentially give you that same information. So so to date, we've had numerous interpretive task group meetings, advisory commission meetings, like 2 public meetings, to really drill down on what we wanted to talk about with the the storylines, the story of the Delta. And that's what interpretation is communicating that story. And it had several elements. It had the natural environment element. It had the land conversion element, agriculture, people's stories. So the whole cultural element. It's also had industry, agricultural industry, and the government involvement. How is the government involved in the Delta and how it is managed over time? And then we had several supporting themes, which are essentially the supporting themes are those that trying to think of the right word. It helps. Oh, there we go. So I can't talk without my PowerPoint. Ah. There we go. Okay, you can go to the next page. So the secondary themes are the ones that help supplement and complement the primary themes. So those included transportation, military history, gold rush history, art, recreation, things like that. And so, Blake, can you get to the second page, please? Maybe not.
Sorry, I'm just having some technical issues right now.
Okay.
Oh, okay, resume share. Okay, here we go. I don't know why it turned off.
Okay. All right, so if you could scroll to the second page.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like I said, I'm just having some technical issues right now. Just a moment.
Okay. Anyway, I can continue talking. So anyway, these themes have been developed over time, over the past year, through meeting with all of you and all of the individuals with task groups, really flesh out like what stories within that kind of framework do we want to talk about. And so we presented this several times to the advisory committee, and each time came back with more more real helpful content suggestions. And so we ended up with a smaller group that consisted of Trevor from National Parks, Mike Moran from East Bay Regional Parks, Shelley, I can't remember Shelley Temple. I can't remember her other hyphenated last name. Shelley is from the Delta Conservancy. There we go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, in the Delta Conservancy. And so we worked, I think, about 4 meetings where we just really hashed out all of the primary and secondary themes that you guys have been seeing, to really give it more connection with the Delta itself. Like they were more generic type themes, and we wanted to make them more Delta specific, regional specific. So I'm hoping that what you're seeing in that handout that Blake sent you is representative of that change. So after this draft is done, it's not complete, don't think of it as like this is all that's going to be. We have other sections that will be completed, and then it will be circulated again for public review and could potentially be wordsmithed some more or edited some more. Okay, so can we go to the next page? Thank you. And so I wanted to also provide you with some context on how themes can be utilized, because I think that's one thing as an interpreter is kind of like being a scientist. You have a lot of jargon that you use, and what the result of that jargon is kind of not very well defined. And so I wanted to give you an example of something that State Parks worked on with interpretive planning. And so here's one about if you've been to Angel Island, I chose this park because it's close by to the Delta, and is affected by the Delta. So we wanted to talk about the immigration station. The primary theme is that one you see below, that the immigration station was really it was considered the Ellis Island of the West, but it also had some pretty enforced immigration policies against specific cultural groups and specifically China. And so we wanted to show that as a theme, but how did we present that to the public? So if you go to the next page, here's an example of how we actually took that theme and created a product that the public sees. So this is an orientation panel that sits right outside of the entrance to the immigration station. Each section of the island, it's a huge island, it's 5 miles around, has several different destinations, and this is one of the most prominent destinations, and it gives people the overview of that particular location. And so it talks about what those themes represented, about the immigration policies and procedures and detaining of Chinese citizens. So that's an example for interpretive panel. You can think of these as wayside panels. Okay, the next one. Okay, and then I wanted to show how an interpretive theme can relate to a goal and a recommendation. So this will be something that you'll also be seeing in the interpretive plan for the Delta Heritage Area, National Heritage Area. So this is our recreation theme for Angel Island. It's pretty straightforward. It serves as a refuge for enjoying recreation and natural beauty amidst a large urban area. And so the related recommendations to this was that a lot of people don't know that Angel Island really exists. They see it in the middle of the bay. They see it next to Alcatraz. They know Alcatraz because it's better branding, and it's got Al Capone, but they don't necessarily know the important stories and the recreation that's available at Angel Island. And so how do we do that? And so we decided that orientation is an important goal, that we want interpretation to orient and encourage exploration of this particular park. And so some examples of what we decided to do was to improve trip planning tools. And we could do that through online social media, develop programs and information for we call them personal handheld devices, because we don't know in 20 years from now if we'll still have cell phones. We might just have something else. Also making the programs widely available, the schedule, or an online automated tour reservation system for the immigration station. So these are some things that we went from, okay, well, this is a great place to recreate, to specifics on how we can implement that to the public. And so we've got like the ferry lines that go from Tiburon to Angel Island has like a lot of information. There's trip planning tools online. There's also wayside panels while you're waiting for the ferry, for example, that give all the information about Angel Island. So that kind of those are some of the products that you can use for your themes to make them more, come alive. So I just wanted to give that kind of background how some of these themes can be utilized. Okay, let me go down. Okay, so you guys have seen the interpretive themes, and just wanted to give you an update on some of the more outstanding items. We are still trying to get consultation with the tribes, so that is still ongoing. So you won't be able to see those particular themes for a little bit. We have done this interpretive providers survey based on the last advisory committee. We had an additional 12 sites that were added to this. So thank you very much for either filling this out or for spreading the word about it. And if you we're just going to leave it open for a while because we're still kind of contacting folks and trying to get information from them. So feel free to pass this along for them to fill out.
Real quick, can someone drop those links in the chat? Or, oh, we can't share the chat, can we? We can't click on those links. I would just send them out real quick if somebody had them.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
Someone just needs to do it. Maybe Heather can do that.
Yeah, maybe.
Or I can do it. I can do it after the presentation too.
Sure. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's great. So we want to keep this open because we like to see this as we're, continuing with the development of this. If other sites come up, we want to make sure that we include them. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the next steps of this interpretive planning process is to develop those goals and those recommendations that I kind of gave you some examples of previously. And we get those goals and recommendations from our meetings that we're doing now with you, also from the interpretive providers, and then from other areas of the plan, the heritage plan that I work with Carolyn and Augie and Nancy when it comes to marketing, making sure that our interpretive recommendations are, meet to the same standards or the same kind of ideas as the interpretive recommendations. So a lot of those marketing and interpretation kind of go hand in hand, for example. And so we're also preparing that first draft of the interpretive plan for public review. So that'll be the last part of this. Any questions? I don't have the specific themes up, but if you guys wanted to chat about them, I could probably post them.
Yeah, maybe. Why don't we start with any questions, and we'll have a little time here, not a lot, but why don't we start with questions about just the process behind developing these, if you have any of those, before we jump into specific comments about the interpretive themes that were sent around. Carol, did you have a process type question, or do you want to get into the particulars?
It wasn't a process question. I just a question about the themes. So I'll wait for the process.
Okay. Anyone else that has questions about what Katie just presented before we jump into whatever Katie might want to say about the specific themes, and then I'm sure we've got specific comments. Douglas, do you wanted to question or comment about what Katie just presented?
Yes. Yeah. So I just want to know that what is the strong relationship between Angel Island and the Delta? Because I think the Angel Island is confined, and so I just want to know that what is the relevance between the two items?
Oh, I just use it as an example of how we've done other interpretive plans and what the results of some of those interpretive products based on interpretive plans. And I use Angel Island just because it's close by.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually there are some historic significances. A lot of people who came through Angel Island ended up settling in the Delta.
Okay, I accept that.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing especially Asian immigrants. So
there's a lot of really cool connections. When I was digging into the stories of Angel Island, I could talk about Angel Island for years. It's one of my favorite projects. So
I accept that. Yes.
James and Matt.
Sorry about that. Thanks. Yeah, actually, the company I worked for 34 years, the Blue and Gold Fleet, we ran, and I personally did the ferry to Angel Island numerous times. And the boat and the whole facility right there is an excellent opportunity to have on the boat even related material about Angel Island. And I was just going to say that, yes, a number of the people who came through Locke came through Angel Island, and numerous stories about that. So yeah, they definitely dovetail together, and to have that kind of crossover between say Angel Island in referencing getting people to the Delta is an excellent kind of crossover. So
yeah, and I think about the when we're getting to those recommendations section, that I'm hoping we can have another meeting later on down the road that talks about some of these recommendations, and with all the transportation, the ferries, things that where people are waiting in line are great places to capture people's attention with a story. And so providing some interpretation about what they're looking at or what they're about to experience is a great way to introduce some of these topics that we're seeing in these interpretive themes.
Great. Matt?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Katie for presenting that. And I think the Angel Island is an excellent example, and it's absolutely connected to the Delta story. Stockton was known as the third city in the Gold Mountain migration pattern. Angel Island was absolutely the center of our Asian Exclusion Act and Chinese Exclusion Act activity, which absolutely drove Asian migrants into the inner Delta. And I think the interpretive panels you shared were good examples in that They confronted the history, and they weren't, you know, the panels out there didn't always do that. There were decades of collusion, and it's really important when interpretive organizations presume to speak for a historic moment that they don't collude with the white supremacist culture that colonized the place. And I think I see us setting ourselves up to avoid that crime again in the tribal slide. Obviously, there are things that this group could spitball, but your final asterisk, content to be developed by tribes, is a super important acknowledgement of the lack of qualifications of this group to write other people's stories. And I think something we could do to be productive as this group is, you know, what are those vignettes of Delta history that should be developed by independent third-party expert groups? And I mean, obviously, the Chinese migration, tribal history, you know, Filipinos were all over the Delta working in migrant farm camps. There are qualified people to speak on those things. And I guess this one, it's sort of a soapbox. And then the other thing is technical assistance capacity to hire those folks to write their own stories. I'm generally not in the habit of asking people to tell the truth as volunteers. And so, you know, I don't know, Eric, if you know, I know the Delta Protection Commission isn't holding on to an extra war chest to hire historians, but maybe there is a fund development campaign that we could get creative about to pay those historians to really take this storytelling opportunity seriously and to write something authoritative and defensible.
Great, thanks for that comment, Matt. So just to do a time check, and I think what we can't afford today is to try to edit this document. So Katie or Blake, maybe you could say something about what would be next steps here. But we probably should spend no more than about 6 or 7 more minutes on this so that we can give ample time to the remaining items on the agenda.
Yeah, I just wanted to, before we get to Carol, I just wanted to say that this isn't these interpretive themes are intended to be more of that 30,000 foot level. And so what I think the recommendation should, this is my opinion because I work, from Angel Island, we did the same thing. I'd like to make the recommendations that the interpretive themes be developed further after this management plan is done by specific sites or specific groups. So and that way you'll get more of that authentic and first person experience within those.
Yeah, but maybe one of the Point Heritage team can describe the significance of how interpretive themes get incorporated. Is it necessary to incorporate them into the management plan? Can one of the PHDC team members explain just how baked we have to have this for the management plan?
Carolyn, do you want to take that or do you want me to?
Nancy, if you want to address that, that would be great.
Sure. Okay. The story is what connects the heritage area, is the thing that is that connective tissue for a national heritage area. So recognizing that the National Park Service, or actually Congress, requires in the legislation that an interpretive plan be a component of the management plan. So this is definitely something that has to be baked into the management plan. And all of the actions that come out of the management planning process in some way, shape, or form are related to the story, telling the story, or the resources that support the story. And the living traditions. So yes, it really is a critical part to get right at this point in time. Does that help?
You're talking specifically about this document that's on the screen, or something that's a variation of that?
The document that's on the screen is the foundation for what the interpretive plan has to be in the management plan. The themes, the statement of significance, that all has to be there. And then beyond that, there need to be interpretive strategies that help express this with the resources and the partner sites across the region.
Okay. So is it fair to say the themes should be well developed, but the sub-themes might be that part where Katie said would be, you know, subject to further refinement and work down the road?
I would say that it's the storylines, because I think the sub-themes are also more general, but the storylines are more specific.
Okay, how you take this 6-page
Like
document or
like I said,
5-page
jargon.
document and translate it into interpretive panels and telling stories. Okay.
So
Trevor,
one of
you
the,
had-
go ahead.
No, I just want to recognize Trevor when you finish there, Katie.
So just, yeah, so I mean, one of the strategies would be, I mean, I highly recommend it would be to, you know, you have your base document, and then if you have more specific information that you want to chat about or talk about or interpret about the Filipino experience, then they can be further developed for a site specific interpretation. Yeah.
Okay. Trevor.
Thanks. I just wanted to mention something that has already been mentioned once today, but I think is important to consider across the different task groups and the outcomes from those task groups, this being one of them. Before I do that, I just want to congratulate Katie for all of the hard work you and your team have done to get this document to where it's at. I think we've gone around in circles quite a few times, and I think this has come to a really great product. And we got similar comments from Linda Stonier at the region on this document. So just a congratulations to you. But I wanted to mention that one of the things that's becoming apparent to me is we've been working hard on each of these task groups, and I'm a part of a few of them, as well as this advisory committee. And I think some of the similar sentiments, Matt, that you had earlier about the mission and vision statement, to me apply similarly here, which is that really it seems to me that we're getting close to a point where we need to start looking at the plan more holistically and ensuring that each of these elements can continue to feed off of each other. You know, there's only so many times you can look, for instance, at these interpretive themes and sub-themes before you have to start considering how it's going to mesh with the rest of the document. So I'm glad that we've gotten to a great point where we are right now, but I'm looking forward to how we can continue to fine tune in association with the rest of the document.
Let me ask, because unless we're going to short some of our remaining agenda items, because I do want to conclude at 5 p.m. Let me ask Carolyn, will you need 20 full minutes to talk about task group updates and next steps? Because if you do, I'm going to cut this off, but first ask for a plan for where we go from here.
I'm going to report about the online survey, and 5 minutes is plenty. And then Nancy is going to report on the task group update.
Oh, I see.
And Nancy, I think you probably don't need 20 minutes for that. I don't think.
I do not.
Right.
Okay, well, let's continue this let's give it 10 more minutes then. So Carol, is that a hand or vestigal?
Yeah, no, it's a hand, just a process theme related question. On page 4, we're talking about supporting themes, which are different than sub-themes. And certainly these 5, 6 supporting themes, I can see how many of them will fit in to the primary themes. But can someone explain to me a little bit about what a supporting theme is compared to sub-themes or major themes, please?
Okay, so a primary theme is your overarching themes, and so all of these should somehow fit in with those other primary themes. Yeah. A secondary theme is directly supports. So think of it as a parent-child. So your primary is your parent.
Supporting themes I don't get.
Yeah, I know. So think of your supporting theme as your cousins. So your parent and your child is your primary and secondary, and then you've got a relational theme called a supporting theme that don't quite fit in with those other categories, but are important on their own. And so that's why they're called supporting themes. They support everything else, but they're in a specifically important story that needs to be told.
So it sounds auxiliary then,
Yeah.
opposed to primary. Does that
Yeah.
answer the question for you, Carol?
Well, I'm sure all will be revealed or will be clear to me as we proceed, because I don't want to take the time up with it now, but I can see there's aspects of these supporting themes that can be expanded even further. For example, military history is certainly important, but equally important is the role of the Army Corps of Engineers as it has sculpted the Delta to its vision.
So what you're not seeing in what I didn't provide in this document because it seemed to be confusing with the last time we put it out is all the related storylines, and the Army Corps of Engineer goes underneath that government kind of thematic. When if you want to go up,
I'll look forward to the next draft.
Yeah.
Great, Elizabeth. Thank you, Carol. That was a good question.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where you want to put this, but we talked earlier about the industry in the Carquinez Strait. In fact, as you could take it around to around into San Pablo Bay. So you have, it's really critical to bring this out because it has an existing role, and it's historically in the strait because of the relationship to the deep water and the fresh water, and that there wasn't urban development. So where would you like to insert the discussion of industry in the Carquinez Strait?
Can you go up, Blake? I think should go up one more.
Page 3.
I think it's page 3. Yeah, there we go. Go on page 3. It might have been tucked underneath there.
I see agriculture and
water management.
Water. I mean, it's an area that you could say the importance of water is the depth of the water and the fact that it was fresh water. And so it's really the deepness of the water that made industry very attractive in the strait, and that it, as I said, didn't have a lot of urban settlement. So the industry was here before the urban settlement, more or less. We could quibble about the details, but
no, it's a good one. I know it fits in here somewhere. I just don't have the document in front of me. So yes, I will make a note of that to make sure that we're including that.
So it's not only just the importance of the water, it's the depth of the water.
Well, it's a freshness too, because a lot of the issue is the use of the water, but more importantly, when piers were built for the ships coming in or the rail coming in, whatever the piers were built for, is that there is a worm that does not survive well in fresh water. And so that's why they were interested in the area. And I want to point out that it goes all the way around to Rodeo, and I believe that's included in the strait. So it's the Phillips 66, and then work your way through Martinez and Crockett, Martinez, Vallejo, Benicia.
So Elizabeth, it's more than just the CNH factory, but I'm guessing that's an example.
Yeah, actually, that is, thank you. That is the most obvious example, because they were bringing barges in from Hawaii with a sugar cane. And I said barges deliberately because they did that to avoid meeting the requirements of shipping.
Yeah, our East Coast friends probably get Domino sugar, but we get CNH sugar, and here on the West Coast.
Right.
Domino owns them now.
So what I think that would go underneath theme 5, sub-theme 4. This talks about because of the farmland and the rich fishing, it would inspire people to develop industries to facilitate the distribution of food to the world that might fit under there, or it could fit under transportation and related industries, which is supporting theme 2, which talks about the interconnected waterways.
So in agriculture, you could have a sub-theme, which is the transport of the grain by rail to the ferries in Benicia over to Port Costa. That makes sense, but the refineries don't make sense in my opinion, in the agriculture. The refinery industry and CNH sugar, that would make sense because that's ag, I guess. But it's not the refineries.
That would be supporting theme 6, I believe.
Oh, there we go. Energy production. Yeah. And we could also tuck it under transportation and related industries too. We might need to do an additional supporting theme.
Yeah, I think it's heading in that direction.
Yeah, but that's good. This is the kind of discussion. What I wanted to get out of today, which I probably should have started with, was what's missing. Is there anything glaring that needs to be fixed, or what's missing? And this is exactly what the conversation is.
Let me turn to Janet, and then let me pose that question of what's missing, although I think we're covering it here. Go ahead, Janet.
Yeah, I was just going to say, maybe you could have a sub-theme economy in the Delta, right? What? Economy in the Delta.
Okay.
So it would cover all commerce, or commerce in the Delta, right?
Yeah, I can see them fitting into certain things in here, but also as a supporting theme too. Okay, noted.
Any other comments about what might be missing? We're probably getting to the point where we should talk about what we do about any particular specific edits to this document that people have, and I'm sure that there are some. But before that, any other comments people want to put in about things they felt were missing? Let's not focus on things that maybe could be stated better, but just things that were omitted that should be in there.
Well, I think Elizabeth's got it with oil refineries, but add into there paper,
I have a
fiberboard, for example, as well as liquor production. For example, Just Distillery in Antioch produces all the whiskey, all the Kentucky whiskey comes from Antioch. So I think it's oil refineries, but it's more than that. It's literally the manufacturing, which includes liquor, paper, and other refined goods.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if there's a specific link, I mean, if it's just they manufactured it there because that was a place to manufacture. If it was manufactured there because of that unique feature of the waterways, or the stuff that forms the Delta, absolutely, that makes sense to incorporate it in some way.
In the case of the liquor, it's definitely in Antioch for a reason. It's called fresh water.
Okay. Elizabeth had a.
Yeah, I just have a clarification. So there's so many details to this, and I understand that you don't want to clutter this, and I would agree with that. But will there be an opportunity to have an appendix, for instance, or appendices that could list, and I'll just take the easiest one to talk about, is military sites. And when you start listing the military sites, it's pretty impressive. And so is that, yes, we're going to be doing that. And then what Carol was just talking about is like listing some of the industries don't exist anymore, like Yuba manufacturing in Benicia, which is hugely important at a certain time, but it doesn't exist anymore. So can we have an appendix of that kind of information?
So I know we're going to have a resource inventory. So that's part of the heritage plan. And some of the resource inventory is also going to be It's a matrix. I keep talking about this fancy matrix that's in development, but it's also going to be relating back to these themes here. So so you'll have your list of military sites, and then the topics that could be related underneath those particular military sites, for example. As far as the one that you're mentioning, that if we come up with it during this development, sure. It could also be a product that is completed after the management plan's done. It could be a living document.
Is that okay, Elizabeth?
Yeah, it would be helpful for me to send it to our historical society, because they know so much more than I do.
And
Yeah.
more than I could ever.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing I think would be important is if you do ask others to look at it, it's got to kind of be punchy the way these are punchy. I mean, obviously, you get deeper into it, you can go into much greater detail, but.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eric. I meant the list.
Okay, got it. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want them to. No, not this, but I just want them to be comprehensive in the list, because, as I said, I don't know everything, but I do know that about Yuba manufacturing, and there must be other examples of tile making and Venetia and that sort of thing. And Vallejo, haven't really gotten a lot of input from Vallejo.
No, I think that's a great idea. Maybe when we come up with that resources inventory, it could go out to other groups for checking.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. Lenora, and then maybe we can conclude with Katie and/or Blake talking about what might be next steps on this particular part here.
Okay, I was looking at the supporting themes. We hadn't gotten to a discussion on them, and it looks like a lot of what we're talking about is finding its way in these supporting themes. The military, the transportation, some of the other things that we're going to be actually drilling down to.
Okay. Is there a question related to that, or just?
No, it seems to me
Okay.
that that's where it's going to come. All the things that we're talking about will come under those supporting things.
I think so. I think we've come up with a couple of good ones today.
Okay.
Yeah. The under transportation, or in its own separate supporting theme, is the depth of water and the importance of the depth of water in the Delta, to a lot of related things, but also the economy.
Yes. Okay.
So Katie, could you say something to conclude about next steps with this document here that's now on the screen?
Sure. So what I'd like to, find out from everyone today, and you can send me email or send it through Blake to have it through me if you have any specific changes or suggestions for this document. That would be great. And so this is going to be part of that draft interpretive plan. And so I think once that you see that draft interpretive plan and all the parts that go together, it'll make more sense. Because it's like seeing just a part of the entire picture, right? So you don't see how it's connected. And so that's the next, I'm hoping that's going to be the next step, is you'll see that draft interpretive plan.
Katie, is there a format that you would prefer to receive any suggested edits in? Would you prefer it to be redlined, or do you want people to write in the margins and, scan it that way to you? What's the preferred?
I don't think homing pigeons exist anymore, but I think any other format would be great.
I almost said fax it to you, and I caught myself there. So because we
I
don't
have a fax machine at work, but
we
I don't
don't
know
even
what the
have a
number is.
fax in our office anymore, so I can't even do that from here. But
If you find a homing pigeon, just let me know so I can look out for it. I'll take any comments anywhere you want to send them to me.
Okay, but are they preferred if they're redlined into a Word
Sure.
document, for example?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So
Easy for me to see.
So Blake, one of the follow-ups from today would be to send this document out again in a Word format so that people can create red line edits that way.
Oh, sure, I can do that.
Great. Okay, well, this is good. It's a really good start. And I think this document's getting more and more refined, which is fantastic. But
Yeah, thank you.
Let's keep improving it, everyone. So do get your comments to Katie and or Blake.
Yes, and thank you very much for Trevor and Mike and Shelley and Blake too for their assistance on those smaller group. That really made all the difference, and it was fun too.
That's great. Thanks for presenting this, Katie.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next agenda item, which is an update from Carolyn on the online survey.
Hey. Well, hello, everyone. This has been, I feel like a really productive meeting. I'm just following all the conversation and seeing how well everything's moving forward with the management planning process. So it's very exciting. So I'm going to talk a little about an outreach tool that we're getting ready to implement. And then Nancy will give a quick update on a couple of the task groups and some of the great work that's been going on there. So part of the planning process, as you all know, is first we have this advisory committee, then we form task groups, we've had public meetings. So from the very beginning, we've been trying to reach out to people throughout the heritage area in a number of different ways. And so this tool, an online survey that we'll be releasing hopefully next week, is another tool to try and let people know the heritage area is here, give them an opportunity to give us some input, and then that input will be brought back to this committee, the results from the survey. So, and I can share that survey if I have, Blake, do I have share capability? Let me see.
Yes, you do.
Okay, let me just quickly share, and we can send this out if anybody wants to take a closer look at it. This will be put in a format like SurveyMonkey, and it's specifically designed to be quick. So what we hope is if someone receives it in a newsletter, and you all will send the link to you all, if you can share it with your friends, the groups you work with, help us get this spread as far and wide as possible. We included a little introduction just on what this is, why we're doing it. And then the questions that we ask, there are only 6 questions, and then a place for people to add any additional comments. But they really divide into 4 areas. The first 2 questions are about awareness. Do people know the National Heritage Area is here? And what are ways that people gather information? What are ways that we can help get the word out more and let people know what's going on with the heritage area? Then we ask a couple of questions. Again, people can check all that apply. They can add additional comments if they want to. But just what do people see as some of the challenges related to the work of a National Heritage Area, preserving historic places, cultural traditions, natural resources? So we just give a few prompts, but then there'll be a space to add additional comments or thoughts. We have a question related to tourism. Many National Heritage Areas focus in some way on bringing visitors for economic impact, but also to be able to share the stories, help to preserve the resources. And so we give several options of what they see, what does somebody see as some of those challenges. And then we have a question related to what we've just been talking about, and that's the stories. What do people see as the most important stories of the Delta? And right now we're using the primary themes that will, if those are adjusted a little bit between now and next week, we'll adjust those. And we tried to put them kind of in an easy to read, easy to grasp format. And So we're asking people for this question to rank those. What do they think are the most important stories? What do they feel are the things that are really important to share with people? And then the last of the kind of 4 categories of questions is about the role of the National Heritage Area. What do they need? What do people need a National Heritage Area, a regional organization to do, to help with? And so we ask people to rank in order of importance that they feel are important, but then also, again, to be able to say, add any comments if these are things we really feel need to happen. And so these are the kinds of things that we're talking about as we move into the strategic planning process. We're beginning to identify strategies and actions. We'll be talking about what the role of the heritage area is. So having some input on what people feel like would be most helpful, I think will be very useful to us. And then we have a place for people to add additional comments. So I will share that this is pretty much the template similar format we used for the Mississippi Delta National Heritage Area, that management plan. And I think we got about 300, close to 300 responses. So we're hoping to get that kind of response on this by making it fairly quick, where people can read the questions, check what they want to, but then they have space if they want to add some additional comments. And so it's quick, but what we found from that experience is we can get some information that can be really useful and bring that back to this committee and to the task groups and help inform that planning process. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, first from Jan and then from Carol. Go ahead, Jan.
The question I had is, what would be the best way for someone on this group to distribute this? Because I think we should have a hand in it in our own communities. And I keep thinking we're having a big meeting a week from Monday on volunteer. And it would be wonderful to hand this out, but it's apparently just an online survey. Right. So what would be the best way to get this out to people?
Yeah, quick question for Carolyn. I don't know how these online surveys work, or maybe someone else can answer, but can you do a QR code where people we could just, Jan could take postcards with a QR code on it and people could link to it that way? I mean, the best way is electronically, but if you're trying to get the information to them in an analog format, I think it's going to be pretty challenging unless there's a QR code, because it'll be a string of nonsense letters and numbers that people will have to enter in. And it's
I'm not following you. I'm not following you about.
Go ahead, Augie. Augie knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, Eric, you depending upon the platform, you could use, or you could develop a QR code. You can also just make the web or the internet link real simple too. It could just say, like, Sacramento, San Joaquin Delta survey, instead of all those characters and letters and words that you and I are used to seeing in some of these things.
Yeah, but the point is, Jan's saying, I want to give it to someone in a paper format. And if I get it, you have what looks simple, but there's a DBA behind it that's complicated. So that wouldn't work in her instance. Well, why don't we leave that to the best way to do this, folks, is if you can get it out electronically, because it'll be an electronic link. We'll challenge our team to figure out a way, if you are handing out a piece of paper, that people can easily get to where they need to go to take the survey. We're not going to give out paper surveys and try to transcribe them. That's just not going to happen. So
and that's that. I understand that. It's just that what platforms could we put it on? For instance, in Rio Vista, Rio Vision is, among others, a big volunteer group for the city. We have Facebook pages. We have, you know, can they
Perfect.
go on there?
Anything
electronic,
it's just a link. So you take the
Oh,
link.
okay,
and people,
and with an
if-
explanation of what it is.
Yeah, if they can
Because
click
I would
on,
suspect
if they can
nobody's
click,
heard of it.
yeah, if they can click on the link, they can go to it. It's
And
just,
there is, at the beginning of the survey, there's an explanation of what the heritage area is, what the purpose of the survey. And then there's also another link to the fact sheet and the map that Blake has. So there's that introduction. You could just put that on your Facebook page and then put a link to the survey.
Okay.
Or in an email or a newsletter.
so
That
we're
sounds
at
great, because as soon as I
4:53.
get it, I
Go
can
ahead.
send it out for posting.
Yeah. Anyway,
Bunch of platforms.
when you all get the electronic link, if you can put that in your various social media and your email distributions, however you get information out to people. Carol, if it's really important, ask it, but otherwise we've got 7 minutes and we still have another topic to cover.
I'll just be real quick. Is the organization going to get this out to people in Southern California? In other words, all
Probably
over
not.
California. Is this going to be Facebook? Is this going to be LinkedIn?
We'll put it on all of ours, but I don't believe that we've got good reach into Southern California. So I think just by its design, it's probably going to be more of a regional audience. But if anyone
Well-
has ideas on that, that would be fantastic.
Give it to our congressmen, our state legislators, and have them reach out to their constituents.
Yeah, I don't see them making this that high a priority. This is kind of way down in the weeds, if not even in the weeds, below the weeds.
Yeah, I love it when water is not important. Thank you.
Anyway, we'll ask the team working on this to try to cast it far and wide, but we certainly could use your help. If we captured a good regional audience, that would be a great place to start. So, any other questions for Carolyn on the survey? Yeah, I agree with you, Elizabeth. We'll make sure we get it out to Maven. Not necessarily on water, but maybe she'll run it. So we'll see. Okay. Let's move on then. By the way, when you do get that request from Blake, I'm assuming it'll come from, if you can share it far and wide, that would be appreciated. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Carolyn and team, for drafting it. I think it's a real short, punchy survey. These things have to be short for people to take them. If it's too long, they're just going to stop clicking onto the next page. So I think you did a good job there. Okay, the task group update and next steps.
All right, so I'm gonna
Nancy,
bring
I'm
you
sorry.
through this. Oh, that's okay. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm on a mission now to get us out on time. So I'm gonna just give a quick update on the task groups. The Heritage Tourism and Development Task Group met on February 22nd, and the Resource Stewardship Task Group met on February 28th. The purpose of both of those meetings was to get further into the details of the needs and strategies and actions that are going to flesh out the management plan and start to kind of craft them into these larger, group them into objectives, essentially. So what we're doing is we're really coming towards those 4 or 5 primary goals of the heritage area from 2 directions. Augie's and the task group that has been working on management and organization is kind of coming at it from that 50,000 foot level with mission and vision. And Carolyn and I have been working with the Heritage Tourism and Development and Resource Stewardship task groups to come at it from the more granular actions level. And so, you know, eventually we're going to see this all converge into the goal, the major goal, the mission, the vision, the major goals of the heritage area, the objectives that are going to get us to those goals, and then the actions that are the things that the heritage area is really going to work on over the next 10 years. I will be honest, in hindsight, the approach that we used for the discussion in the resource stewardship group was better than the approach we used during the heritage tourism group. That second meeting had some really, really rich discussion. And so we're going to take that approach back to the heritage tourism and development group and kind of further the work that we were doing there on objectives. So the next steps for us are getting dates together for another meeting of the Heritage Tourism and Development Group to go over objectives, and then taking both of the task groups to the next level, and then identifying and articulating the role of the partners and the coordinating entity or the National Heritage Area staff through DPC in what those actions are going to be. So that was a very quick summary of what we've been up to, and I'm happy to entertain any questions in the last couple of minutes.
Great. Thanks, Nancy. Are there any questions for Nancy?
I was going to add one more thing, and that is that Trevor's well, first of all, Trevor has his hand raised, but also Trevor's update at the beginning. Kaylin Berry has a lot of experience with heritage areas and a lot of experience with communities. So as the new superintendent, she's going to be a great advocate. Augie, Carolyn, and I have all had the opportunity to work with her on planning before, and y'all are lucky to have her coming.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. Trevor.
Yeah, I was just wondering, it's great to hear where we're at in terms of stepwise progress. Do we have an update on overall timeline for when we expect, a final draft of the plan to be circulated and then sent on up through the National Heritage Area Coordinator or coordinators at the region and national level, and then on to the department?
Yeah, I can answer that. Our plan is to go to the commit. Well, probably at least in the committee, we'll probably be looking at a draft in July, August, somewhere in there, and then like a full draft, I should say, and then go to the commission in September. When we go to the commission, basically they will release that for public review. With the idea of having a November final vote on that. So we should be submitting it in November, December timeframe to MPS.
Thank you. And can you remind me, I believe, we've already had to ask for one extension on the management plan development timeline. Is that right? And does that go by fiscal year calendar, or are we going to need to ask for another one if we're past September?
We are just going to finish it when we finish it. So
yeah,
we'll see. There's no real way to punish us at this point. At some point, our money will be withheld, but so be it. So we'll finish it as fast as we can, but that's really not a consideration for us at this point. So.
Yeah, Trevor, I can probably talk to you a little offline about that, but no, we don't anticipate any issues with that.
Okay. Nancy, did you want to report on another task group as well, or was that?
Well, Augie already reported on management and organization, and that was the other two. So I think we're good.
Okay. Well, are there any final questions related to those task group meetings and next steps? Okay, if not, are there any final announcements that your memories got jogged about as we've been working through the agenda here? Okay. Blake, can you say a little bit about when this group is anticipated to meet next?
We are, one of the things I'll be doing after this meeting is talking a little bit more to the consultants about agenda items for the next meeting, but I do anticipate having an April meeting. So that would be April, the first Thursday in April.
That would be
is-
April 7th.
Yeah.
So if we've not yet sent out a calendar invitation for that, we will, but otherwise, if you all can mark your calendars and keep that time open, that would be great.
Yes, thanks for the reminder. I will send out a calendar invite either tonight or tomorrow.
Okay. Anything final before we wrap this up today? Okay, well, thank you all for hanging in there. We had very little attrition, and that's great, and really good discussion and very good products generating the discussion. So let's keep it moving forward.